Hello friends, and welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 32. I am Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and thank you for joining me. Some of you may have seen my Facebook post of an hour or so ago saying that there might not be a video today because of a power outage we had here, but it was short-lived, thankfully. And I don't know what it was related to. It wasn't our own local power, thankfully, our own house's power. It was something out there. So here I am, able to make a video and able to upload it in a little bit. So Flosstube is about cross stitch, and I'm going to show you some of my projects that I'm working on, and Variety Show is about something else that hopefully you'll find interesting. It's things that I find interesting. So let's get started with cross stitch. First, I'm going to show you Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather, charted by Golden Kite. They chart a lot of paintings, classic paintings. And this is a painting, a chart of a painting, and this is how far I am, which the last time I showed it was at least 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. And I have done a lot in the rose bush at the top, and I'm continuing on the marble steps. I took it out of the hoop today because I needed to move the hoop a little bit. And I think I'm going to try to fill in that big blank area right in the upper third of the edge where I've been stitching in the next week. That's about 400 stitches or so. I am not keeping up with the 22,000 stitches in 2022 on this. I'm not doing that yet, but I'll get there. Next is Flea Market Flowers by Holt. And I have been making some progress there. I think last time I had showed you that this flower down in this area that was at least partially done. So I've done this flower and started on the leaves. Still enjoying this, but I will say I got a little sidetracked on it. For one thing, I got going on this, which I'm calling the purple sampler for now. I did that alphabet, decided to stick a little key and a couple of little bosses or something you might call next to the letters. So I have a few more letters and there'll be a little space next to that. I don't know what I'll put there yet. That's the fun of this, is deciding sort of as I go. And I'm getting those ideas out of this book, Ultimate Sampler Motif Source Book by Brenda Keys. So I'm enjoying that a lot. And this past weekend was the first weekend in February. And the first weekend of each month has been unofficially designated as Blackbird Designs Weekend Stitch Along, which has a hashtag BBD Weekend Sal, if you want to find it on Instagram. And I have started this Sweet Summer Come Again, the drum. And it's funny because this photograph here on the front, and here it is on the back, is even bigger. I think it's bigger than the actual item. But this is how far I got. I got the basket done. So I'm ready to start on the strawberry plant, which I think it's going to be really pretty. I'm doing this on a piece of leftover fabric from another project I worked on last year, which one of the reasons I'm not taking it out of the hoop is because it's barely, this is a 5-inch hoop. I do have a 4-inch hoop, but I can barely fit this in here and have enough room to do the stitching. I could stitch, the word is sew, on my sewing machine, some fabric to either edge of that, and it would be easier to manage it in the hoop. But, I haven't done that. We'll see. So, that's all I want to talk about with regard to cross stitch for this time. But I wanted to talk about in my variety shows portion the idea of surfing. Let's call it surfing, because right now people surf the web, don't they? And you follow one link to another, to another, to another, and you started out looking up William Wilberforce, and you end up looking up the World Championship Jigsaw Puzzle Competition from 1986. That's how surfing goes in the internet, and it's great fun, and I think we should do that. We should allow ourselves that kind of time to do that kind of thing. But before there was an internet, children, you may not remember this time, but there used to be this idea of what is equivalent now, what is equivalent to what we call surfing now. We used to call it browsing. And a great place to browse, and this is done in physical objects, for instance, a dictionary. I have spent so many hours browsing the dictionary because you go to look up a particular word and you end up looking up something else. I mean, look at all these pages there are to find things in. So this is you see it's pretty beat up, Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary. This is the 10th edition. I think the current edition is the 11th edition, which I'm sure is just as fun as this one. And today I was looking up, and so you can look up words on the internet, and you can even have a subscription to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary probably on the internet and get the same kind of information. But browsing in a dictionary is so much more fun than looking it up on the internet. I was looking up the word riposte, R-I-P-O-S-T is what I was pretty sure how it was spelled, that I'd heard someone use in a YouTube video. And sure enough, I found it here. It's on page 1011 in the R's. Riposte, French, it's modified of Italian. Literally, it means to answer, and so on. And in 1707, it was used as a fencer's quick return thrust following a parry, or a retaliatory verbal sally, or a retaliatory maneuver or measure. And that could possibly have been, oh, it's also a verb, riposte, R-I-P-O-S-T-E, also a verb. So that's interesting. But more interesting than what I came for was just looking at some of these other words that are listed here. Ripped, which means being under the influence of alcohol or drugs. That is 1970 slang. One of the things I like about the Merriam-Webster is it gives the date that they have ascertained as the first usage in print. I believe that's what that date is about. And then ripper, ripping, ripple, and there's two big sections on ripple, ripple effect, ripple mark, rip rap as a noun, which is a foundation or sustaining wall of stones or chunks of concrete thrown together without order. And I know what rip rap is in construction, current modern construction, because there was a lot of rip rap at the Bible Church's construction site when we put our addition on, which was under construction 2017 and 2018. I'll tell you more about that some other time. One of my favorite times of life. And that's what browsing in a dictionary does. It brings you to a new thought or a remembrance that you hadn't considered recently. I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about riprap in quite a while. But because I was looking up riposte, I remembered about riprap. So that's a dictionary. I highly recommend it. Here's the beauty of a dictionary. If you want to find one, if you don't have a physical one that you can just browse through like this, is you can go to a used bookstore and find one. It doesn't really matter if it's the most current edition when it comes to dictionary. It really doesn't. Any of them would be fun to browse through. So another kind of book, oh, I don't have room to put these. I guess I'll do that. Hopefully I won't have a teetering tower. Yeah. Another kind of book that's fun to browse through is an anthology. And I have this one that I enjoy, the Oxford Book of Humorous Prose, edited by Frank Muir. And this mostly is 19th and 20th century prose. It's short pieces and stories and little biographies about the people. It's sections of plays. Very, very pleasurable to just pick this up from time to time and find something. The other interesting thing about, especially about looking at humor over time, is to see that what used to be funny isn't really that funny to us now. And probably what we think is funny now wouldn't have been funny then. And I'm going to read you a little thing. So there was a, let's see, page 17 is where I want to be. I had a bookmark in a different place. That's not true. Okay. So he starts way back before the 19th century with earlier things. So here's something, an excerpt from The Art of Living in London. Again, I'm just going to show this book again. The Art of Living in London, which was published in 1642. So we're in the 17th century. And this author, I'm told by our editor, Henry Peacham, was interested in writing guides to how to survive socially in different situations. Sort of the self-improvement book of 1642 called The Art of Living in London. So he's warning the reader about the potential pickpockets in London in 1642. And he says, keep out of throngs and public places where multitudes of people are for saving your purse. The fingers of a number go beyond your sense of feeling. A tradesman's wife of the exchange one day, when her husband was following some business in the city, desired him he would give her leave to go see a play, which he had not done in 7 years. He bade her take his apprentice along with her and go, but especially to have a care of her purse, which she warranted him she would. Sitting in a box among some gallants and gallant wenches, and returning when the play was done, she returned to her husband and told him she had lost her purse. Wife, quoth he, did I not give you warning of it? How much money was there in it? Quoth she, truly 4 pieces, 6 shillings, and a silver toothpicker. Quoth her husband, where did you put it? Under my petticoat, between that and my smock. What, quoth he, did you feel nobody's hand there? Yes, quoth she, I felt one's hand there, but I did not think he had come for my purse. So much for the guard of the purse, concludes Henry Peacham, our author. So that's very enjoyable. You go through here, you read E.B. White and Stella Gibbons, people I've never heard of, but it's part of our, the heritage of humor in the English language, not just England, but American humor in this book as well. Another book I really enjoy browsing through from time to time is Laughing Matters, a celebration of American humor by Gene Shalit. Now, Gene Shalit in the 70s, probably, was a commentator. I think it was on the Today Show. And he would do a little essay on, some aspect of social life. And that's how we came to know about Gene Shalit. And he put this book together. Again, a very fun kind of thing to browse through. I don't have an excerpt to share from this book today because a lot of the pieces are a little long. He does some comic, political cartoons and other types of cartoons also. This is possibly my favorite book to browse through. The Little Brown Book of Anecdotes, and people call it the Big Green Little Brown Book of Anecdotes. Little Brown is, of course, the publisher. It doesn't refer to the size or color of the book. Very fun. This is organized by person, so not by alphabetical, but by the person about whom the anecdote is. And it's all kinds of eras, quotes from writing, and it gives some information about where the quote is from. And I just flip open to this. I just find something, whether I know who the person is or not, it's always interesting. Anecdotes are always interesting, aren't they? There also happens to be a index of subjects in the back. So if you want to find an anecdote about the grocery store, you can probably look that up. Here's an anecdote about embezzlement. Again, you can even browse the index of subjects and find some pleasure. The anecdotes about economizing, about efficiency, about elections, eccentricities. But I happen to find the section on W.S. Gilbert, who was the libretto writer of Gilbert and Sullivan, the great British operetta pair. And one of these little brief ones. At rehearsals one day, Gilbert was anxious to speak to a particular actress and asked a stagehand where she might be found. "She's round behind," said the stageman. "Yes, I know that," said Gilbert, "but where is she?" Get it? Get it? So very, very pleasurable to read or browse through that book. And then the last book I'm going to show you is Lexicon of Musical Invective, Critical Assaults on Composers Since Beethoven's Time. And this is quite interesting. I mean, I was a music major and studied classical music. That was my thing. That was my jam. There's a current expression that Emily Williams used on her YouTube video. And this was just a fun thing to browse. And of course, if you're studying a particular piece of music, you might go and find whether there was any particular criticism of it when it was reviewed in the paper when it was first written. And here's an interesting thing I'll read about Beethoven's Eroica Symphony, which is the Third Symphony, which is one of the most commonly performed symphonies from the 19th century period, but especially one of Beethoven's most commonly performed symphonies. So here we have from a review in the 1829 Harmonicum in London publication. "The heroic symphony contains much to admire, but it is difficult to keep up admiration of this kind during 3 long quarters of an hour. It is infinitely too lengthy. If this symphony is not by some means abridged, it will soon fall into disuse." So that's always fun to discover that kind of irony. And other composers list, which some of you may think list from Rachmaninoff and Wagner, there is much to criticize about them. And indeed, I think there probably is. But some of the criticism that was written, I'm sure was written to be funny, and there's a lot of funny. Or if not funny, if not directly funny, very pleasurable browsing to be found in this book. I could have brought another stack of 6 great books to browse through. Poetry anthologies are excellent to browse through. Anthologies of short stories, depending on how long you have or what your attention span is for any given unit, what you want to take in. And of course, there's even more mundane publications like the Reader's Digest. I mean, what a great browsing resource. Humor in Uniform, All in a Day's Work, all those things are wonderful and fun. There's a category of a book called a commonplace book, which people used to keep, and they would write in a notebook their quotes and anecdotes and things that they had discovered. And some of those are published. You can actually purchase a copy of a famous 19th century person's commonplace book and read it. Cookbooks are excellent browsing. Again, there's just endless. But the point that I have realized is that browsing through a paper copy of a book is very enjoyable, and it's a different kind of enjoyment than surfing the web. I think you get different things out of it. I think you find and discover different things if you have a physical book, a physical dictionary, will be much more, and therefore I think it will be much more enjoyable to browse through this type of book in a physical form than to get a Kindle edition or find it on the internet somewhere. So that's what I have to talk about today. We are having spectacular weather. Last night it was so warm that I had a fire in my fire pit on my deck, and it was very warm. I mean, I had to back away from the fire because it was too warm. Today it's close to 70 degrees and sunny and a light breeze. But we are supposed to get quite cold weather again over the weekend. And I know some of my viewers have recently had a lot of snow, for example. Certainly cold weather. Yes, North Carolina has many advantages from September 1st through June 15th. Once you get into the late June through August, the advantages are harder to find. Sorry, yes, that's true. It's just very hot and humid. But right now, let's not think about that. Let's just think about today. It's such a beautiful winter day. So that's it. Thank you for watching. I'm supposed to occasionally remind you to subscribe if you haven't. And there are going to be times that I don't record on a Friday. I aim for Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, and it sort of depends on what else is going on in my life, which day is going to be best. So if you were to subscribe and also click the notification bell, then you would be notified when I've posted a video, even if it isn't on a regular day. So that is all I have. Many blessings to you, friends.